What is up, Philadelphia? Man, this is HRS Late Nights, Tony Cutillo. As always, you know what the deal is, man. We do the live audio stream on the nights. We're going to break down everything. You saw earlier, we talked about the huge 76ers win, but tonight is about Super Bowl. Tonight's about Super Bowl 58. Tonight's about football. It's about the last shot at the NFL, and it sounds like from today, we're going to have a lot to talk about when it comes to Philadelphia Eagles. David checking in says, what's up? Yeah, I know. You called it, Dave. You called it, David. I got you. My man, BBG checking in says, I had a hop on. My man always says, I live in KC, and man, it's depressing the Birds didn't win last year. Let me tell you something. I am like all Chiefs up, man. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. Again, this HRS Late Nights. Make sure you like and subscribe. Call-in line is open as well. If you want to call into the show, it's very easy, very simple. I make this very, very live and interactive for everybody. All you need to do is click on the link, and you can literally it's no video, just live audio, man, just like a radio station. Except, guess what? You don't have to wait on the phone lines. We're going to break a lot of things down and talk about it. Listen, we got to talk about the Kansas City Dynasty that we're looking at right here. Okay. We're looking at the Kansas City Dynasty right here and the GOAT Andy Reid. Okay. Because he needs, after that game, he needs to be called the GOAT. Okay. I'm sorry. Like, we're going to talk about that a little bit. We're going to talk about, obviously, Patrick Mahomes. Man, 28 years old, already a lock for the Hall of Fame. The stuff that he's done, Front Office Sports to a post out there just to break down what he's done at 28 years old, which is just beyond recognizable for a lot of people, which is fantastic. And then we're going to get some Eagles talk, right? They need to take notes on how to build a team. And I say that because we're all rah-rah Howie Roseman, rah-rah the gold standard, this, that, and the other. But, number one, I like how people on the radio are now talking about today how, defense still means something. I talked about that 2 months ago, by the way. But now they're going to latch onto that now because it happened to be in the Super Bowl, right? Listen, I know I don't have the wattage that stations have and this and that, but I guarantee you what, you're probably listening to some of these shows, or you'll listen to some of these topics, and you'll hear them later on another show. I guarantee you that 100%. But you're going to hear it here first, like you always do. And then Hasson Reddick, once out in Philly. Surprised? No, not really. Do I care? I mean, look, if you don't want to be here and you don't want to be part of what's going on, then you know what? I'm to that point right now, man. Like, I don't even care with the whole, I got to get out of here, the trades. I don't want to be here. Like, again, man, I just, I don't care. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't care. Josh is looking forward to seeing how much of a cap hit the system quarterback is going to hurt the Niners. I mean, here's the thing, though, Joe. They still have another year left, right? And that's the thing with Brock Purdy, because he was a late round pick. They still have another year, so they don't even have to figure that out right now, which is crazy. But I think, looking at the Chiefs, I don't know how. I mean, BBG, I know you say you live in KC, and I know you are Phillies, obviously an Eagle fan, but if I'm the Kansas City Chiefs, if I'm a Chiefs fan, if I like the Chiefs just a little bit, I got to be extremely happy about how young this team is. And, I talked about Andy Reid, and we need to talk about this for a second. And I know I'm biased because I live in Philadelphia. I know I'm biased because we had Andy Reid here, and we probably didn't respect Andy Reid. That's one thing that we do here in Philadelphia. I love my Philadelphia people, but one thing we do is we never respect the people enough until they're gone. And we never respect them enough when they're here. It's always when they're gone, we respect them. And let's make no mistake about it. We can't look back and talk about revisionist history and say, if Andy Reid would have stayed here, everything would have been ours and not the Chiefs. That's wrong. It was a time. He had to go. He had to go. The message was stagnant. Everything was just sitting there in the sense that It needed a change. There needed to be somebody different, right? And Joe says he was appreciated. He ran his course. He had 4 wins. He needed a new place. I don't think Joe, I don't think he was appreciated as much as we think he was. I know for me, for my money, me personally, I don't think I appreciated him as much that I think we should have. We always harped on no receivers. We always harped on no linebackers. We always harped on things, this, that, and the other. But what we come to find out is now that he has all this insight in Kansas City, that this man could actually pick out talent, right? And shout out that, you know what, real fast too. Let's not forget to mention that Steve Spagnuolo, first ever coordinator, whether it be defensive or offensive, to win a Super Bowl 4 times. First time ever. So let's start giving that GOAT tag to Spags as well. But to get back to Andy Reid for a minute, think about that team that just won and the young guys that all had to contribute. The patience that was preached by Andy Reid. These guys will get it. Rasheed Rice will get it. Pacheco will get it. These guys will get it. And not just the young guys, but I'm going to tell you something, man. There were so many different things in that game that just said to you, go. That's it. Go. That's it. Simple. I said this, I'll say it again. Okay, now Andy Reid's got 3. Okay, has the opportunity to go 3-peat. Okay, has the opportunity to go 3-peat. But there's one guy right now that we can compare him to. One guy's coach and one guy's not. And Bill Belichick is still sitting at home. Bill Belichick isn't a head football coach right now. As much as I respect Bill Belichick, again, Andy Reid, let go. Phone rings instantly. Next day, he's in Kansas City, and the Hunt family is introducing him as their new head coach. That's respect. That's called, you know what? I'm giving this guy whatever he wants because I know what we have in Andy Reid. And a lot of the moves that he made yesterday, legendary. I'm going to say this, and not everybody's going to look at this way, but I am. The activation of Jerick McKinnon. The activation of Jerick McKinnon for one specific reason. To be there as a veteran when you needed it. That one play down the stretch that McKinnon makes. The play action, the stutter, out in the flat to pick up the first down. Brilliant. Because he knew he could trust them. The rookies on this team, like I said it, continue to say it, over the last 2 years in the secondary, the number 2 ranked defense in all the NFL with rookies, with homegrown guys. I'm going to say this again, and I'm going to continue to say it. You cannot build a team through free agency. You may get lucky. And yes, guess what? How we got lucky. It went all together seamlessly. And then now you see what happens when you try to buy everybody. It just doesn't work because none of your young guys will step up. And let me ask you this too about talent. And, and especially about the Eagles. This is going to be a flip-flop conversation, right? We're going to talk about the obviously all the positives of the Kansas City Chiefs, but we're also going to have to look at that and how that, how that changes our landscape in Philadelphia. And one of the reasons and one of the ways it changes the landscape is How come we always have to wait for our guys to learn? How come we always have to wait for our rookies to understand when I'm looking at teams that their players, they contribute right away? Why is that? It's coaching. And Andy Reid has that, man. Andy Reid has that. And it's not going away. He's not going anywhere. He's not. Now, I'm going to talk about certain instances in this game that were extremely important. Extremely important. I'm going to talk about certain moves that were made before this game that I thought were extremely important. Chris Jones single-handedly disrupted the entire game plan for the San Francisco 49ers down the stretch. Single-handedly. The guy in the middle, single-handedly. Chris Jones, who was a holdout, and Andy Reid said, pay the man. Pay the man. He needs to be paid. And guess what? Do you think Clark Hunt is sitting there going, Andy, man, I can't believe you made me pay this guy? Hell no. He's looking at the hardware once again. He's looking at a sold-out stadium once again that, that had Chiefs all over, okay? All year. That's what he's saying. And that's the crazy part. Because we sit in this town in Philadelphia and we want to anoint people right away. We want to anoint people right away. And I look at it and I say to myself, have we given them too much of a leash? Because I looked at specific areas of that game, and there's no way in hell Nick Sirianni makes half of those calls. You know what? Here's one, for instance, and I want to see if anybody else caught this. Kyle Shanahan on that final play, 4th down play, when he calls timeout. He calls timeout because he took it over. Meaning, even though we respect Steve Wilks, and even though Steve Wilks called a fantastic game, Kyle Shanahan said, oh, hell no, we're not playing that defense. Right, take a timeout. I don't want that out there. I'm not giving them the soft coverage. I'm not giving them the gaps. That was Kyle Shanahan. Now, can you see Nick Sirianni do that? No. And that's why, again, I feel like there's no way this works, man. There's no way this works in Philadelphia. What they're envisioning and what they think is going to happen is not going to happen. It's not. I'm sorry. It's not. We're going to be sitting here talking about the same thing over and over again. So, again, looking at this Super Bowl, it started off slow. And it's because you had two great defensive teams, okay, that were making plays. Listen, it's not like Brock Purdy was throwing the ball game. It's not like Patrick Mahomes was throwing the ball away. No, there wasn't a lot for them to throw. I mean, listen, you have to credit those corners. Oh, McDuffie is a beast, man. He is a beast. And how about Logan Ryan on the other side coming in and playing? And I mean, my God, like, think about it. I mean, both of these teams put on a clinic to a lot of coaches out there just by the way they scout talent and the way they bring guys in. And, I looked at it and I was like, you know what? I need to give props to Brock Purdy. I am 100%, or I was 100% on the Brock Purdy overrated fan club. I might have been a leader for some time, to be honest with you. I completely had the fact in my head that Brock Purdy would never be a guy that they think he was going to be. But guess what? My man made plays. He did. You got to give it to him. He made plays. He was calm. He was cool. He was collective, man. He made plays. He did the best that he could. But again, you lost to Patrick Mahomes. It's not like you lost to Trent Dilfer. It's not, right? I mean, think about it. You lost to Patrick Mahomes. That's really not a terrible thing. right? It happens. Kyle Shanahan, think about it. Kyle Shanahan lost to Patrick Mahomes. Like, unfortunately, guess what? Patrick Ewing would have championships too if it wasn't for Michael Jordan. Every now and then you run into Michael Jordan. And unfortunately, you keep running into Michael Jordan in your same era. And when you run into Michael Jordan in your same era, if you're Reggie Miller, if you're Patrick Ewing, guess what? You have no rings because Michael has them all. So Kyle Shanahan, guess what? You have no ring because guess what? Patrick Mahomes has them all. Andy Reid has them all. This is what happens. This is what happens. It's the reality of sports, man. It's the reality of sports, and there's nothing that we can do about it. But sometimes we have to just sit back and we have to look at it with an open mind and just appreciate the greatness. I mean, for somebody to sit here and whether you comment, whether you email, whether you call, and if anybody says that Patrick Mahomes is not special, crazy, right? Think about it. Let's just be blessed that we're watching Patrick Mahomes. We could tell stories later on in life that I could tell now about Jordan. I watched the guy. I watched the GOAT. David, fantastic comment. Absolutely. Ewing would have won 2 NBA championships, 93, 94, 94, 95. That Knicks team was devastating, man. It was destroying the competition. Could not get past MJ. And if you remember, first it was Starks, right? Then, we're going to bring in a Jordan Stopper, Gerald Wilkins. That didn't work. We're going to beat him up in Xavier McDaniel, Anthony Mason, Charles Smith. That didn't work. Charles Oakley. Everybody's going to beat him up. But guess what? It didn't work, man. It didn't work. Indiana, Reggie Miller. How many championships would Reggie Miller have if it wasn't for Michael Jordan? Dude, that team was stacked. Stacked. The Davis brothers. Oh, come on, man. Dale Davis was just boom. Pounding MJ. Didn't matter. Didn't matter. Right? Malone still crying over the championships he could have had if it wasn't for Michael Jordan. So that's what Patrick Mahomes is. He's the Michael Jordan of football right now. He's the Michael Jordan of football right now. And you can't deny it. You cannot deny it. I got to show you, or I got to at least explain to you. I still can't believe this, man. I still can't believe this. Let me share the screen real fast so you guys can see this, because I tell you, I like to give credit. I'm not like those people that just kind of like leech on to other people's stuff and never give them credit and say, "Hey, look what I made." So this was on Facebook today. My friend Susan shared it off of Front Office Sports. 28 years old, Patrick Mahomes now has 2 MVPs, 6 Pro Bowls, 3 Super Bowls, a $500 million contract, 4 properties across 2 states, ownership in F1, that's racing, MLS, MLB, NWSL teams, and deals with Adidas, Prime, Subway, State Farm, and Oakley. If this isn't the Michael Jordan of football, I don't know what is. I mean, this dude is obviously 100% lock. If you don't think he's a lock, or he was a lock last year, he just cements his legacy again this year, right? He just cements his legacy again. And that's what's crazy, man. That's what's crazy about it. It's just, what he's been able to do is just been unbelievable. It really has. And he's such a special talent. He really is. We're very lucky to be able to watch him. We really are. David says, I'm going to be honest, my Rams would have been here one last year, Super Bowl champion against the Chiefs, and win it again this year. But the Chiefs again this year. Well, I mean, the Rams, they had a good year, man. They had a good year, but they just didn't have the defense, right? It didn't have the defense. But I really think that we need to talk about, finally, this has to be Andy Reid taking that next step. Has to be Andy Reid taking that next step. It does. I mean, if you sit here right now and you look around the league, and if you just take age out of it, right? If you take age out of it, it's you got to go with Big Red. You have to. I mean, I just don't know how else you don't. And I said this on. I was on Sirius on Saturday night. Me and my man Sia hosting from 7 to 9 on Saturday, and I brought this topic of a conversation up. Nobody's really talking about it. But again, Andy just keeps winning, man. Andy keeps making the right decisions. He just keeps winning. And if you win and you win with rookies and you win with, you know, later stage veterans, if you win with guys who are resurrecting their careers, obviously you had the respect. You garner a respect, right? So when you garner that respect, it's really hard to mess up. It is, because people are always going to give you that next opportunity to shine. Andy Reid, I gotta say this too. So just for everybody out there, when you listen, and I don't know who it was, but somebody mentioned about Andy Reid being there for not being there for his kids, or obviously his one son, we know what happened. Okay, we don't need to rehash that. His other son is part of the Chiefs coaching staff, and I don't know why you have to make a comment like that, because we don't really know what was going on. We don't understand. But all I can tell you is that Andy really took that to a level that, honestly, a lot of us maybe not have been able to handle. And, sure, he probably regrets some things. But unfortunately, knowing people that have been addicts and knowing what addiction does, and again, who are we to judge where the addiction came from, what the addiction was? It's an addiction. And sometimes, guess what? It's life. And I'm not here to judge that. Okay. All I know is Andy Reid had the outpouring respect of everybody and anybody throughout that whole situation. I listened to former players, one of them in this town, Hugh Douglas, huge Andy Reid guy, right? He says it all the time. As my coach. That's my coach. That's my coach. You don't just get those labels. Okay. Andy understands. And yes, will he ever be perfect? No, never, never be perfect. And to Joe's time, he finally learned clock management in KC. Yes, except he did take a weird timeout in the Super Bowl yesterday. But again, that's Andy Reid. You're gonna get that stuff with him. But to be able to watch these players really, really gel as a rookie and play big time first, second year talents, in the Super Bowl, and not be wavered at all. Not again, just ice in the veins, man. We talked about it earlier with Ricky Council at the free throw line for the Sixers, and then we had to talk about the rookies for the Kansas City Chiefs, man. Ice in the veins, bro. Ice in the veins. I mean, these cats just went out and they succeeded. So for me, Andy Reid 100% needs to be the top of the conversation now, not Bill Belichick, in my opinion. This is Andy Reid. And this team is so goddamn young that it's scary how good they could be over the next 4 to 5 years. It is scary, man, because I'm going to tell you something right now. They're going to go out and they're going to get somebody. They're going to get another receiver, big time receiver too. I could definitely see it. They know Travis Kelce's breaking down. They understand Rashee Rice is going to be their guy, but he's still another year or something away. But you watch. I'm telling you right now, T. Higgins, you watch. They're gonna get somebody, man. They're gonna get somebody, and they're really they're gonna fly all over again, man. I mean, everywhere you look, there is young talent on this team. And obviously, they're extremely good at drafting and scouting. Okay. So because of that, that's why they're always going to be there. You're only as good as the guys you bring in, the homegrown talent that you bring in. That you're only as good as those guys. It's really that simple. It's really, really that simple. So for me, for my money, Andy Reid to GOAT. My man David says my Rams will be here instead of the Chiefs. Listen, man, the Rams have a little building to do, but we'll see. We'll see. They definitely have an offense, but the defense for the Rams is obviously what concerns me. Okay. But the Eagles need to take notes on how to build a team on the Kansas City Chiefs. And let's understand the way they've built this team through proper scouting, through good draft. When was the last great draft that we had? We're still talking, again, we're still talking about guys like Zach McPherson. We're still talking, like, really? He can't get on the field. If McPherson's a hit as a fourth round pick, guess what? There is no Slayer Bradbury, right? There is no Slayer Bradbury. And that's my issue. That's my issue. Okay, we let Javon Hargrave go because we draft Jordan Davis, right? We bring Fletch back for one more year at top dollar because we know Davis ain't ready. But guess what? He still ain't ready. Why? Is it bad drafts? Are our eyes not as good as we think? Something's going on. Something's going on. But the problem is, I don't see it changing because the guy in charge is Howie Roseman. So unless Howie changes, this doesn't change. And that's the problem. We don't have that next guy. We never do. And what the Chiefs have shown us is you can have Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes. Highest cap hit. Highest cap hit. Think about it. All those discounts we all talk about. Guess what? They didn't have to take it. You know why? They know how to build a team. They know how to build a team. And will Andy Reid ever not have a stud Pro Bowl kicker on his team? I mean, Harrison Butker just continues to just be fire, man, with his kicks. Continues hitting my prop of over 7.5, which was nice. I know my man C hit that as well because I know he mentioned it live on the air, which was great. We hit most of our bets live. Eli Mitchell over 4.5 yards rushing, over 1.5 attempts. He just didn't come through with the 3 people with the touchdown, but Brandon Ayuk over 35.5 receiving. So many different things that we hit on that game, which was great. But the reason why the Eagles need to take notes on how to build a team is these guys contributed right away. And we need more of that. And if we see this happening more and more around the NFL where guys contribute on big stages very, very early, then why can't our guys do it? Why is Nolan Smith not picking things up? Why is Jordan Davis not picking things up? Why did Jalen Carter disappear, right? Why did guys like Zach McPherson not be able to get on the field in certain situations? Like, what is going on? What is going on? I have to ask. Is it coaching? Is it scheme? Are these guys just not as good as we thought they were? I don't know, but it's definitely something. And they need to take notes on how to build this kind of team because right now this is the gold standard. I hate to break it to you, Jeff. I know you want to say we're the gold standard. We're the quarterback factory. Really? Quarterback factory? What quarterback factory are we? What quarterback factory are we? That's the crazy part when you think about it. They label themselves the gold standard, but they're far from the gold standard. They're spending money because their drafts have not panned out. And the Chiefs, on the other hand, don't have to spend the money. They could take the top cap hit from Patrick Mahomes, and they could take the top cap hit from Chris Jones. You know why? Because they are able to build a team with young players that can contribute right away. Something that the Philadelphia Eagles cannot. And guess what? If they could, then this next topic of Hasson Reddick, who wants out in Philly, do you let him go, becomes a non-issue. Now, here's where I stand on Hasson Reddick. I honestly think Hasson Reddick wants more than he's worth. I do. I've always felt that way. And It's how you classify him, you know, in the National Football League. I thought Hugh Douglas broke it down extremely well today on WIP. And I do. I listen to I like Hugh. I can't stand Joe Giglio, but I listen to Hugh. And I like Hugh's takes because this is a former defensive end, and he made a good point. When you talk about the top 4 or 5 defensive ends, especially guys like Myles Garrett, okay, you talk about these guys, and guess what? Hasson Reddick is not these guys. He's not that guy. He's more of a specialist, that really can get after the quarterback multiple times a game if you put him in the right scheme. So you cannot pay him like one of the top 5 defensive ends because he's technically not a full-time defensive end, right? But again, if we drafted guys like a Nolan Smith who actually could play, and we don't know if he can or he can't, but I'm just saying if he can get out there and play with, this is a non-issue. It's like next man up, right? No big deal. Guys going to contribute. Guys got skills. I trust my eye. We went to the Senior Bowl. We watched them. We scouted them. We knew we wanted them, right? That's what's got to happen here. So I'm sorry, as much as Hasson Reddick is our most lethal defensive player, if he wants to trade out of here, well, then I think you have to grant it to him. I do. I think you're in that position. You have to grant it to him, and then you have to just play it out and see where it goes. Maybe you get assets. I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask around, but you can't pay this guy top dollar. Number one, you don't have the money for it. Number two, I don't think he's worth it in that perspective because we don't even know how Vic Fangio is going to use him. We don't even know what kind of defensive scheme Vic Fangio is going to run. Is it going to be like something that marries the system as Hasson Reddick together? If it's not, then you cut bait and let him go. If he's not happy here and he doesn't want to play here, well, then just put him somewhere else and see what you can get for return. And I think that's what's happening here. Go out, find out what you can get, come back, and let's talk. So it's going to be interesting. But again, this is why you draft well. You have a lot of picks this year in the draft. You have to draft well. This can't be no more wait and see, man. You need guys that get in there right away, and you need guys that contribute right away. You need offensive linemen. We got to come back with offensive linemen. We need defensive linemen, right? We need a guy like a Brian Burns that we can draft and mold and, make him our own. And that's what we really need here in Philadelphia. That's what we really need. And until we get those good drafts, until we get that good talent, we're going to be talking about free agents till the end of time. We're going to talk about extensions. We're going to talk about all of this until the end of time, because if we cannot get homegrown talent to contribute right away, we are in a lose-lose situation. Because we're paying a quarterback top dollar, like one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. And if we're not going to be able to hit on a lot of these young guys and affordable talent pieces, then we're going to be in severe trouble because we can't pay everybody and we can't sign everybody. And you have no cohesion. That's the problem too. You have no cohesion because you don't have these guys that click right away. They're not growing in the same culture and the same mindset. We just talked about that earlier with the Sixers and how it's so great to watch these young guys come up and produce right away because they have the G League. And I know the football NFL doesn't have the G League, but the G League already sets the culture and the baseline. So when they come up, they already know. They already know. But again, if you know the coach you play for and you know the team you play for and who's leading the team, you're going to buy in, man. You're going to buy in. If you don't buy in, then guess what? We don't want you. It's as simple as that. But you're most likely going to buy in. And then you can negotiate, right? Then you can negotiate. But the problem is right now, you have a guy who says, I came here in his mind for, I think it was it 3 years, 45 million. And he already knew, he thought in his mind, if I go out and prove it, because remember, it was a prove it style deal. Some people thought he should have got more. If I go out and prove it, they're going to pay me, and they didn't. And that's when everything started last year. And now it's coming full circle. Now it's starting this year. So now you have to figure out what you want to do. For me personally, like I said, again, if he wants out and you find a partner, I say that as much as, defense wins championships, and we're seeing that, if the guy doesn't want to be here, man, he doesn't want to be here, and we're just going to have to deal with it. We're just going to have to deal with it. We're going to have a lot of growing pains, guys. I hope everybody understands that. I mean, this is going to be a young team. It's going to be a really young team. I mean, you think about it. If Fletch doesn't come back and say Kelsey does retire, and you trade a guy like Bradbury, you trade a guy like Hasson Reddick, you have to look at his team, and man, it's really, really changing. Really changing. And are you going to be able to flip that switch? Are you going to be able to have these young guys contribute right away like they did for the Chiefs this year? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. And that's why I wanted a change in coach, right? I wanted a head coaching change because as much as everybody loves Sirianni, at the same time, something was off. The pulse was off last year. It was off completely. And that just doesn't get rectified overnight. That doesn't just change its course overnight. So I feel like this is a wasted year. I hope I'm wrong. I do, but I feel like it's a wasted year. And if it's not, prove me different, man. I think it's a wasted year. I really do. I think it's going to be a year where Nick is indecisive because obviously you have the suits that are running the organization and running the team and making the decisions, and Nick is just a general manager. That's always going to be a problem, man. That's never going to be respected around the league, and it's not going to be respected by your peers, and especially the players, because they're going to know you're overruled whenever you want to be. Right? Whenever they want to overrule you, that as a player, that they have him, right? They have him stopped in his tracks. There's nothing he can do because they overrule him all the time. How do you respect a guy like that? So there's going to be a lot of challenges this year for the Philadelphia Eagles. A lot of challenges, personnel wise, coaching wise. Can this amount of coaching change and culture change flip that quick? I don't think so. That's why I said, why are we keeping Sirianni? Like, I don't understand some of this. I don't. But all I know is watching that Super Bowl and watching Andy Reid and watching these homegrown guys go out there and produce and be unbelievable. A couple of those plays in the end zone were fantastic. We just looking at that saying we need to do that here, but I'm just not confident. I'm just not confident we can do it. I'm really not. So listen, I did a post game show for the Sixers. It was very animated, very high energy. And I want to stop in here, talk on late nights, talk about the Chiefs and winning the Super Bowl, obviously, talking about how we need to lay respect out to Andy Reid for being the GOAT. I wanted to give you those topics about Patrick Mahomes and talk about the Eagles taking notes in this Hasson Reddick trade. So I think we covered all of that and some fantastic comments as well, like we always do. But we're going to cut this a little early tonight on HRS Late Nights, only because we had a fantastic post game show tonight. And I got to get ready for tomorrow night when we talk about you know going forward with the Eagles, how big this offseason is going to be from a coaching standpoint. When everybody realizes they don't have a ton of money to be out there spending for a lot of people, so we want to bring that up as well. Talk about the changes we think they should make, from a roster standpoint. Right? Are you good with this roster construction, or do we have to change course a little bit? Did the Super Bowl make you a believer of building from within, building guys from the draft, getting young guys, affordable talent, getting them to buy into your culture, and growing with them like they did out there in Kansas City? Right? I think that's something that we really have to look to. And I think that's something, if you're true to yourself, and you're not lying to yourself, I think you'll understand that it's definitely the way that we're supposed to go. But listen, man, as always, HRS Late Nights right here on Heat Ratio Sports. Give me a follow at Heat Ratio Sports. You can follow my personal account at Tony Cutillo RRM, where you can find all things from media news to really good insight when it comes to the sports betting market, and as well as some really good PR stories as well. But for a Monday night, this was fantastic. Did double shows. We brought the fire. We had a ton of comments, a ton of interaction. I greatly appreciate it. And like I said, always, man, tomorrow's going to be a little snowy out. It's going to be a little crazy. But just try to do one good thing for somebody or yourself tomorrow, whether that's brush a car off, maybe shovel a sidewalk, because not everybody can do that. Okay. I just found out I have arthritic ailment in my hand, and it looks like one day may have to get surgery. But for right now, I have some pain, but I may not be able to lift the box later on down the road. And I might need somebody to help me. So as long as I could do it right now, I'm going to make sure that I help out as much as I can for that person. But HRS Late Nights Heat Ratio Sports, I appreciate everybody's support. I'll be back here tomorrow night, and tomorrow night, never know what we're going to talk about. I think we're going to get into some baseball talk tomorrow night. We're going to talk a little Phillies, Spencer Turnbull, signs, which is great. We're going to talk about that as well, but we're going to break it all down tomorrow night. But until then, man, everybody have a fantastic evening. Safe morning tomorrow. Watch the commute. As always, going to be a little messy. And for me, eat rich, just family, everybody's keep healthy. We'll get back to it.